This is in no way a how-to multi-organ transplant video. This is our journey.
Sitting in a parking lot.
Oh, you gotta breathe, 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 breathe. Let it go and let it be.
I think we're both a little out of breath.
Well, it's kind of like one of those moments where you don't have words. And
We just came out of the store and we both were like walking out with our cart like, huh? So we just got a call. So a few weeks ago, during one of my clinic appointments, we discussed with my doctor about transplant. And it was originally brought up a little over 2 years ago. I had had a decline in lung function and just it wasn't budging, and at that time that was the first time it had been brought up, and it kind of shocked us. And then we worked through our feelings and we fast forward, my health stabilized after that. And we were able to put that conversation on hold for about 18 months, 2 years. And
we were, in the last few months, at a place where we're, like, Mary's on IVs right now. We're doing, like, what we can, but her lung function has come down to about where it was 2 years ago. And like, that's not the only factor we take into account when we think about our health, but it is one factor. And Mary and I have been thinking about life in general and thinking about the future of treatment plan and all of that. We know that, like, eventually we're gonna have to come back to that conversation of transplant.
right.
And so we feel like we can't make a lot of decisions about our future because we know that there's that variable.
Yeah. And part of the variable is I also have liver disease. There's a percentage of the CF population, a pretty small percentage, that also has liver disease, and I also have spleen involvement as well. So multiple organs. Basically, the way my doctor put it is, we need you to be at a transplant center that is willing to transplant multiple organs and is proficient at it. So he mentioned a few hospitals that would be possible choices, and so we just started with the first one on the list, and that was Duke University, and or Duke Hospital, University Hospital, whatever it is. And so basically here's how it started. So I don't even know, whatever, you guys get the point. A couple of weeks ago, we revisited the conversation, and that's when he kind of told us a couple of hospitals, and he was like, they're all equally.
And they're all equally, yeah. And I'll just preface this with, the conversation was on the premise of, how can we start planning for the future?
And part of planning for the future is figuring out where a possible transplant center is. Not saying, oh, I'm about to be listed.
Yeah, and so the conversation wasn't like, it's time for transplant.
Right.
It was, we need to start thinking about when transplant time comes. Because we're really in this, like, spot with Mary's health where the way Mary's doctor put it in that meeting was, you know, she could get the flu this year and it put her in a spot where it's like, okay, we need a transplant now.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a new drug might be coming out this summer. It might stabilize Mary a little bit. We might be 10 years down the road. Like, we have no idea.
He said both are equally possible.
Yeah.
And because there's no way to know, if there was like a contract I could sign with my body that was like, let's stay, yeah, it's gonna be a hard road, but let's stay stable where we're at for the next 10 years. That'd be cool. But there is no such contract. I'm pretty sure my body would break that contract. But because of the variables of not knowing if I'm gonna catch the flu, or if I'm gonna catch another like CF bug or whatever, like the possibility is that I could have a rapid decline, and we kind of need to have a plan in place. So because I'm gonna be possibly multi-organ transplant, there aren't, basically I'm gonna have to go out of state.
Yeah. The recommended hospitals are all in other states.
Yeah.
And so that, in our thinking about the future and thinking about when transplant time comes, makes us feel like, okay, we've got to like explore and figure out some of these details, like who we're gonna call, you know?
Yeah.
Like exploring, it feels more complicated than if the hospital we're currently at
yes.
could transplant her. I feel like that was part of why we felt like we need to start having this conversation.
Right. So since we're going to another state, it's going to mean a move to another state, which means housing in another state, which means, are we going to be temporary there, or should we move permanently? All of these questions. And then Peter's job, how do we, all of these things. Of course, vlogging moves with us wherever we move, but some parts of our life is more concrete, and it needs to actually be figured out, like where we're actually physically going to move and that sort of thing. Okay. You guys will come with us no matter what. So because of all of those things, we reached out to Duke, and basically the process started. My doctor sent a referral. We signed a transfer of records paper. They received the records. A pulmonologist on their team looked at my records, and
let me just preface this. When we started this by doing the referral like a couple weeks ago, our thought process was Mary and I can go get a consultation with them and just, you know, see their clinic and see how the process goes, and like basically
ask questions.
A consultation. Like that was what we were like, that's kind of that was the plan in our minds.
So when we talked to them a couple weeks ago, when we first started just asking questions, they said there's 3 different things: a consult, a partial evaluation, and a full evaluation. And I said, you know, my doctor and us, like, we're looking into this pretty early, and so he said, yeah, no problem. You know, the pulmonologist will look at your records and see if you're a possible candidate and all of this. So anyway, we were just in the store buying potting soil, and number one, I never have my phone ringer on, ever, and it happened to be in Peter's pocket, and the phone started ringing. Peter looks at it and he goes, it's Durham, which is the town in North Carolina. And I was like, okay. And that store, we usually don't get any service in that store.
Yeah, I was surprised you got service.
So I answer, and he said, I'm calling from the Duke Transplant. Revive me with the joy that you bring, joy that you bring.
We always have a song for these conversations. So he answered the phone, and Mary was, okay.
We signed the transfer of papers this morning.
And I'll say that Mary got a phone message yesterday, or this morning from them saying, we need you to sign this paper and whatever. Mary like texted me, she's like, can you come here, before she listened to the message.
I had already listened to it, but yeah.
And just, it was just kind of like this feeling of, even though we had kind of initiated this conversation with her doctor, it feels
Shocking.
Yeah.
So the guy on the phone said a pulmonologist on our team looked through your records, and they would like you to come in for a full multi-organ evaluation, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, so, and I was like, he was so sweet because he was like, I think what I asked was, when we talked to you guys a couple weeks ago, you said there's like a consult, a partial eval, and a full eval. How do you come to that decision? Who comes to that decision? And he said, the pulmonologist comes to that decision. And he said, are you surprised? And I said, yes, I am. And he was just really like kind and gracious to
be understanding of.
He gets it because he makes these calls.
Yeah.
And he read what she said, and the pulmonologist noted that it's a little bit early, but good timing because she needs a full multi-organ evaluation. So all of that to say, we were a little bit in shock because we thought they'd call and be like, we knew that Duke is pro early conversations about transplant.
Yeah.
So we thought they'd call and be like, you guys are pretty early in the process, so we've got plenty of time to talk about stuff. And they were like, so full multi-organ evaluation. And I was like, oh, what?
It just made it feel more real, right?
Yeah, well said.
I think that's basically what we're processing, is because we expected to just be like, all right, you're not ready for an evaluation, let's have a consultation and talk about it.
I think that's what I said to him. I said, so how about we come in for a consult and then talk from there? And he said, no, you have to come in for a full multi-organ evaluation. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, and I presume part of that is, you know, the pulmonologist still noted that it is a little bit early, and that's good. Like, that's what we wanted. That's what we expected.
And from our perspective, it's definitely early. A full evaluation is what you go through in order to be listed on the lung transplant list. Like, even though we're gonna do this, it doesn't mean we're ready for Mary to go on the transplant list. And I think from their perspective as well.
Right. I presume that, I get a cough shiver. I presume they need to see the full, you know, they looked at my records, imaging, that sort of thing from the past. And I'm guessing they need to look at the current to really take into account how will her organs do.
Yeah.
And her whole body. Like, basically, they want to put us in the best case for success.
Yeah.
They want you to have a successful transplant. And if they can see that there's huge red flags, they won't recommend it.
And part of the reason we want to start this whole conversation and like figure out what center that would take Mary is there's a chance we could do this and they say, we aren't willing to transplant you here either because of risks with her organs or I feel like that would be the only reason. Yeah. But I mean, they also evaluate like your like support system and all of that, and like making sure you're in a place in life to be able to handle not only physically but also all the other aspects of life. But
yeah, that's and I think so. My older sister had a double lung transplant 8 years ago.
Wow.
8 years ago. And she was transplanted at a different hospital, not Duke. And so we have experience, a little bit of experience from hearing about her transplant. We lived in Boston and like would visit her and stuff, but we weren't there with her every day. And so we know a little bit of what transplant life looks like pre, during, post. But number one, everybody is different. Number two, every hospital's different. And number three,
she didn't have liver disease. So,
right.
Yeah.
So hers was a double lung transplant. I'm being evaluated for multi-organ, which they said, which I presume is just liver, right? I guess we'll find out. Liver and lungs, but anyway.
Which, when we did this whole process, like on Duke's cover sheet for their referral form, and it's like, notable things about our program, liver, lung, multi-organ transplant. Like, it's one of the things they're known for, or I guess it's notable.
Right.
That they, because not, like we're experiencing here where we currently live, none of the hospitals are, that's notable.
Right. So there's a lot that goes in it. Like Peter was just saying, besides just the physical aspect, you're required to have multiple full-time caregivers. And they are required to have no driving restrictions. They are required to live within a certain amount of distance. They have, so these transplant centers have done this so many times, and they have come to conclusions about recommendations and requirements to put you at the most chance of success. And so one of my full-time caregivers has to come with me to this full evaluation. You have to stay within 5 miles of the transplant center. Like, there are like rules upon rules, which obviously are different. There are different rules at different hospitals and all of that. So I think for us, one of the most important things is going to be keeping a really open mind, taking into consideration what we know about transplant from my sister's experience, but really understanding that that guy is really looking at us. Understanding that every body is going to handle things differently, and every hospital is going to be different, and being open to whatever the experience is, whatever the outcome is, whatever the journey looks like. And so for today, we're a little bit in shock, just because I thought they were going to call and be like, you're super early and whatever. But they're like, good thing you called. Let's get some information so we can make some decisions. And I like that. I like that they they looked through everything, and you know, it'll be a journey. We could go to Duke and have the week-long evaluation, and it could be a no. They could say no, and then we go to a different hospital and do the whole thing all over again. We have no idea. So this is in no way a how-to multi-organ transplant video. This is our journey.
Sitting in a parking lot after a phone call and processing. I think part of what might be hard for other people to grasp is it's not like anything's changed in that phone call per se, except that it just feels, it's our perception of everything. It feels, like we said before, it just feels more real to have to go through a full multi-organ eval as opposed to just a consultation where it feels like just you still keeping your distance from the process. But I mean, it really doesn't change anything where we're at and how we think about transplant per se.
Right. It's just, you know, it's in the midst of these sorts of things, there's a lot of questions about the timing and the why and the how and the all of those things. Oftentimes, after the fact, you zoom out and you look back and you're like, oh, that's why. And that's why that timing, which is a little scary. If you guys are new to the idea of organ transplant, it is, specifically lung transplant, is not a cure for cystic fibrosis. Every cell in your body still has cystic fibrosis mutation. Your lungs are free of CF, but after transplant, you have a new set of challenges. Some people come out of transplant and live a fairly normal life, as long as they take their anti-rejection medications. Other people come out of transplant with just challenge after challenge, and there's no there's no guarantees. And so it really is a last resort option. But if it is an option, we will take it. And so we are trusting that God will walk us through that when that time comes.
Yeah.
And
and for right now, the next steps are, is it an option, and where would that option be?
right,
And that's what we're gonna figure out.
do it together.
Yeah. And and one of the things Mary and I have been like praying for is like direction about like how do we plan and how do we like some of those details about being ready and yet not knowing when to be ready for and all that. Like, I think this is kind of an answer to prayer in helping us at least walk through some of the steps early.
Yeah. Okay. We're out.
Peace.
But first,